Hello, fellow mompreneurs. Welcome to the Real Moms Podcast, the go-to space for resilient entrepreneurs who are striving for abundant living. I'm your host, Shay Spitz, a mompreneur and a realtor here in Columbus, Nebraska. Are you a mom juggling the hustle of entrepreneurship, family life, and personal growth? Well, you're in the right place. On this podcast, we dive deep into the real, unfiltered stories of incredible women who are navigating the journey of mompreneurship. We'll celebrate the victories, share practical insights, and acknowledge that it's okay to face challenges along the way. Success isn't about the destination. It's about the journey and the growth we experience as we balance our careers and the chaos of family life. Whether you're a seasoned mompreneur or just starting on this exciting path, join me and our amazing guests as we explore what it truly means to be a resilient entrepreneur striving for abundant living. Get ready for real, raw, and remarkable conversations that will inspire and uplift you. Because here at the Real Moms Podcast, we believe in the power of community, authenticity, and the strength that comes from embracing the journey together. So grab your coffee, find a cozy spot, and let's dive into the world of mompreneurship. This is the Real Moms Podcast, where we celebrate the hustle, honor the struggle, and thrive as resilient entrepreneurs living abundantly. Welcome to another episode of Real Moms Podcast. I like to start every podcast off with a motivational quote, and today's quote is, "Don't let anyone dull your sparkle and stop caring what other people think. They don't pay your bills." So today we have Erika Rothenberger. Erika manages a full-time career as a director of performance systems for a large national utility contractor, Heckles and McCoy. Erika has received an LEED accredited professional as well as a professional project manager. She has started 2 female empowerment networking groups in her community and is a contributor to charity boards and many networking groups in her community, including a chair for the Executive Roundtable with Power. She is a leader in the greater Philadelphia area as a mentor and believes in lifting other women as she rises. Erika graduated from Villanova University with a bachelor's degree in civil engineering and a master's degree in business administration. She is a published author in You've Got This, Boss Mama podcast, host on Grit, Grace, and Glitz, and a keynote speaker captivating audiences on stages all over the United States in both her corporate and wellness roles. Her entrepreneurial ventures span real estate and a wellness entrepreneur. Erika has received many awards, including a few notable ones, which is Crew, Top 20 Under 40, Rebuilding Together Volunteer of the Year, and Top Leader in Action with her wellness company. She also is a major advocate in helping create assault and domestic violence awareness. Erika currently lives with her 2 children, Drew, who is 9, and Adeline, who is 6, with her husband, Andy. When not working on a passion project or career-driven project, you can find Erika traveling the world, working out, and enjoying time with family and friends. Erika, thank you so much. That was a mouthful. So Erika, one, I want to thank you for being on here because clearly you are an extremely busy woman. You are a very busy mompreneur, a wife, all of the things. So tell us a little bit about your journey, and then I will get into your violence situation that obviously didn't happen too long ago that you could share with us, but kind of tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey that you've gone through.
Well, I always like to start. I always say, listen, if I had 2 minutes in the elevator with someone, what would I say? So I'm originally from Plymouth, Massachusetts. I went to school at Villanova. I got my degree in civil engineering. And because my uncle and my grandfather were both engineers, I just fell in love with the profession. And long story short, recognized when I graduated, I really wanted to be around people. I wanted to be able to be in the action. And so hence I started with a hard hat and steel toe boots and had been on project job sites really for the last 22 years. I have quote unquote, climbed the corporate ladder, got around the board table, been in the male dominated spaces, have started 2 women empowerment groups because of it. Like I said, a mom, super, super happy just being able to be a mom to 2 magnificent children. But I always say wear a big sombrero on the other side, which is the entrepreneurial side, which is the reason that I started the women empowerment groups. The reason I've always felt that the foundation should be health and wellness to everything that we do. Started an international wellness business and absolutely have written a book, done a podcast, have been a TEDx speaker, and due to some, trials and tribulations, with assault that happened to me. Really started my speaking business about a year ago, and right after my first TEDx, which was in April of 2023. So, I wear a lot of different hats, a lot of different facets. And I always say, listen, do the things that bring you the passion and purpose, because there's a lot of hats that I don't wear. Like, I am not the mom that's going to bake the brownies for the school play, right? I'm going to buy them because that's not what I'm good at. I have a house cleaner that comes and cleans my house because I'm not good at that. When I say I wear a lot of hats, I wear the hats that are important to me. And for everyone listening, sometimes we try to compare what hats someone else is wearing. And sometimes it's just that we don't like the fit of that hat, or it's not the right style for us. And that's okay. It doesn't mean you have to wear all the other hats that everyone else is wearing.
I love how you said that, because I'm very much like you. I'm not going to bake something. I'm not. My husband knows, my kids know, I'm not going to go and bake something for my kids' events. I'm going to go out and buy it because, there's definitely other people who are better situated or better fit for that particular role. And that kind of is with marketing. I have a marketing lady who handles a lot of my marketing because that is not where my area of expertise is at. So she handles those because that is her area of expertise. So I really like how you said that you don't stop comparing yourself to all the other hats that people are wearing, because you have to find what fits you and what works for you. So starting off, you've been doing this. So that's a little intimidating, I would say. Not really. To an extent, but a project manager as a woman, how is that role? Because that's a very male dominant industry. Would you not agree?
Oh, 1,000%. There's less than 10% of females who are in this industry. So you can only imagine when I started 20 years ago what it was like.
And how have you come over? I'm imagining that you have had a lot of pushback when working with men in that sort of industry. How have you overcome those challenges?
Well, you know what? I think just like anything, right? If you have a challenge with anything in your life, whether it's being in a male-dominated space, whether it's a challenge with eating, whether it's a challenge in your marriage, right? The challenge can always be there, but you always just grow stronger, right? But it doesn't mean that it's fixed. It's not something that I can just put on the shelf and be like, oh, settled that one in year 5, right? It's something that I think you always have to work at and be aware of and be vulnerable to, and say, okay, listen, how am I leading the woman behind me? How am I leading the person that isn't comfortable with that yet? And then who's in front of me that already feels more comfortable than me? Right. And so by starting these women empowerment groups and continuing to talk about it and continuing to say, hey, listen, sometimes this space still feels yucky. And there's times when I don't think about it at all. And there's other times when I'm like, I feel like the odd person out. And I think it's when you feel that you can't talk about it with the group that you're part of, you're probably in the wrong group. And so I have to make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people that also get it, but don't make that issue, make it an action. So many people like to be a victim of it versus saying, hey, what actions am I going to take to progress, to move forward? I'm not going to all of a sudden change it to be a 50-50 work environment. It's just not going to happen, right? But what am I doing to push the pendulum to recruit more people, to make more people aware, to be talking about it on podcasts like this, so people recognize that it's a phenomenal industry for women to get into.
Mm-hmm. And I think every challenge that you had, especially with that same situation when you're dealing with other men in that industry, every time that you came across it, it probably was a little bit easier each time to just kind of blow past the entire situation. The first time may have felt like a roadblock. The first time may have felt like, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I'm not meant to be in this situation. I don't know if that's how you feel, but I think that's where a lot of people get stuck, is that very first objection when you're in that industry. You either pull back or you push forward. So as long as you can push forward and you keep going, each time you come across that, like you said, you're not going to just put that on the shelf and say, oh, I'm done with it. I don't have to deal with that ever again. No, the next time it's just going to be easier and easier to blow through mentally. Maybe not throughout the entire process. Maybe the next person's a little bit more challenging, but mentally you're like, oh, nope, I got this. I'm not going to let that person walk all over me. I'm not going to let that person talk to me like this.
Absolutely. And I think one of the other things too is just to even simplify it even more, just think about us all. Like at some point, most of us have all tried to ride a bike, right? And at some point we had no idea how to ride that bike, right? So regardless, let's just bring this into a real simple example, right? We didn't know what we were doing. And how many times as kids do we allow ourselves to fall? And do we still get back on? Do we have Band-Aids all over our knees, scraped knees? We were hurting, we were this, but we still got back on. or most of us did, right? And I think it's the same thing of anything, regardless of how macro or major the issue may feel, is that you got to keep going. You got to keep working through it, and you have to find your advocates. But to your point, Shay, it does get easier. It does get easier the more you're exposed to it and the more you're willing to be your authentic self and talk about it and say, hey, this feels uncomfortable today, but it may feel a little less uncomfortable tomorrow. And looking back in my career path, that I could bring up 1,000 different examples of how I felt that way. And I would be lying to you to say that I still don't have those examples that could come up. They're different, but they still come up. So I think, like, again, we never get 100% comfortable with it, but when we're growing and we're trying to make movement, it should never feel 100% comfortable.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. I've always said, get very comfortable being uncomfortable, because when you are starting to feel comfortable, for me anyway, I have realized that's when I need to make a change. That's when I need to do something more, something bigger, because you are not growing if you stay inside your comfort zone. And so many people don't ever fulfill their fullest potential because they stay in their comfort zone. Growth is not comfortable. A really good example, I don't know if you ever listened to Rob Dial, but an example of this is like a crab. So a crab actually grows. The shell obviously does not grow, but the crab itself does. And the crab actually has to break through the shell in order to continue growing. And then he finds a new shell. So if you, and I would imagine as you grow, that shell gets tighter and tighter and tighter, and it's going to be very uncomfortable. You're going to have those challenges, you're going to have those tribulations, you're going to have those mind thought of, I can't do this. And then once you break out of that, you move on to the next one, and then you continue to do that over and over and over again.
Yes, 100. I could not agree more. And I think, like all of us, right, our shell continues to evolve. It continues to change. It can continue to become malleable, like in the way that when we need to expose ourselves and show up and how we want to show up, right? So I think it's so important that once it feels too comfortable, ask yourself, are you challenging enough? Are you then reaching down to the next crab, per se, and bringing them along the way with you, right? Because you think about, like, the example where we'll go with crabs right now, but like sitting in a bucket, they want to pull everyone back down in that bucket with them. But I want you to be the one that wants to get out of that bucket and wants to put yourself into uncharted territory, to challenge yourself, to make yourself grow. Like, if we truly, everything that real embodies, right? It's going out there and being vibrant and doing things that it may not seem the straight and narrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I kind of want to go back to what you said before, is that if you're not comfortable with talking about a situation with your group, then you're probably in the wrong group. And I think that that's why you probably started your own women empowerment group. And that's why I did as well here, is because I want a community of women. There's no shit talking. There's no talking down on anybody. We are there to support each other, help come up with solutions if that's what the person is looking for, it to be a safe space, and for them to feel comfortable, like, you know what, we are going to have failures. We are going to have these downtimes. And I want you to have this community of women where you feel comfortable talking about that, knowing that other people or other women in the group are not going to go out there and tell everybody about your problems. Because if that's the case, you're out. Like, I'm not dealing with that. If you're going to spread rumors or talk about what we talk about within the group, out. I'm done. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I think your network is your net worth, and who you surround yourself with is going to be kind of a make or break in your business and in your life.
100%. And, we've all heard it before, like, your network is your net worth. The 5 people you surround yourself with, the people that you're going to be most closest to. Like, we don't just say that to say that. Like, really think about, I always like to say, who's your board of directors? And just like a typical board of directors, people have to change positions. There's people that get fired. There's people that get hired. There's people that move. There's people that stay for a longer term. And think about your own board of directors. Who is surrounding you, and who do you have in your arsenal to be able to protect you through those things? And do you need to find a new board, right? Do you need to find a new member of your board that's going to be there? And there's very different people that I would go to for a mom issue versus a professional issue versus a financial issue. And who are those people that you can depend on and really get phenomenal sound advice, and they're not willing to sugarcoat it either.
Yes.
Because I always say, listen, if everyone in your board is yes, 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 how are you growing? How are you being challenged? You need to have them be looking out for your best interest. And sometimes that's challenging you in the way that you may be approaching something.
Yeah. And I was meeting with somebody yesterday, and she was asking me, how do you know, or when you are doing well, but you have other people in your life who are almost bringing you down, like they were part of your life for a very long time, but now they're saying, oh, so-and-so, they're too good for us now. She's like, well, how do you handle that? And I thought that was a very good question. For me, though, I have realized it is difficult, especially at first. We were talking about before, the more you get used to it, the easier it becomes. But like when you start having people along those lines, you either need to cut them out or eliminate your time or minimize your time with them. Because if they don't want to join you in this path of growing yourself, totally fine. Nothing wrong with that. But if they're the ones who are making those little jabs and they're trying to bring you down here and there, and it's definitely a jealousy thing, it's an envious thing, but they're not the ones who are willing to put in the work. Because I'm sure maybe you've had people say, oh, it must be nice. I don't know if you've had people say that to you. Oh, it must be nice. Drive me crazy. Yeah, you're right. It must be nice, because you don't know the mental stress and the emotional stress we've endured to get to where we're at. We took these risks that most people would never have taken. And it could have been a huge fail. Fortunately, we learned, we're fine. And even if we did fail, you just keep going. But you get to the point where you either have to block that out, you minimize that time, or if you can, cut them out, because you can't have people in your circle who are going to bring you down.
No. And I think this is the thing, especially women who are growing and changing and evolving. What I've recognized is some of my circles 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, they're still my circles, but I'm not going to them with the same type of questions. And that's where I was talking about before. It's not that you have to like get rid of those circles. It's just what other circles and what board do you need to really surround yourself with? Because most of the time it's because you're growing and you're changing. They're the same person. You can't fault them for, you know what I mean, being the same person, but is that the energy that you need to surround? Because you need to get in a bigger pool. You need to get around a bigger board table. You need to challenge yourself. And when you start to feel that scarcity mindset with other people, or they have the scarcity mindset and you have this abundant mindset, and you almost feel like you're the one that's like the one that feels out of line, you're in the wrong room.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to continue to bring that energy down and continue to bring you down if you don't move yourself. And again, I'm not saying don't be friends with them. You can still go have dinner with them or cocktails with them or whatever you want to do. But how do you need to up level if you truly want to up level?
Yeah. Because I have my like 3 best friends that 2 of them have been since we came out of the womb, basically. And another one was my random roommate college. So there's 4 of us, and we do a lot together in our personal lives, but they are not part of the Real Moms community, which is directed towards mompreneurs, entrepreneurs, because they have the W-2 jobs, still very successful, but it's a completely different realm. So I don't have the same conversations with them that I do with my Real Moms community. 2 night and day, 180 different conversations. This might be a little bit more personal. This over here is mainly business with a little bit of personal in it, because it's hard to have a conversation about entrepreneurship with people who are not entrepreneurs. Nothing wrong with them. It's just hard to carry on a conversation. I don't know if you found that as you had gotten into the speaking industry, you find your passion. So when you talk to people, you love having long conversations about that with these certain people, but then it's hard to have that same conversation with somebody else, because it'd be like me trying to talk to my husband about golf.
Right.
I don't know. I'd probably rather go out and watch paint dry or the grass grow, but whatever. So
it's so true. And like I say, when you find yourself in that situation and you feel like, I know I have a group of girlfriends, right? And they're phenomenal. They're like my mom friends. Like all our kids play football together, but they don't think the same way that like I think. And what I find myself I'm the only one that can change that, right? So when I show up and I try to make those conversations happen, and then I feel frustrated or I feel defeated or I feel like they're not supporting me, that's my issue. I got to go find that group that wants to support that and wants to help that growth mindset. It has nothing to do with them because they're phenomenal people and I still love hanging with them. My conversations are just different. So what type of conversations do you need to have in different rooms? And just like you would have a different conversation when you were just talking to your significant other one-on-one versus when your kids are in front of you, right? Completely different conversation. Same topic sometimes, but completely different way of going about it and having that conversation. So just think about, what room do I need to step in? What are the people I need to be around?
Yeah. Yeah. And having those expectations that when you're going to go into the group of moms who are the football kids, all your kids play football together, you're not going to go in there and talk about business. You're not.
No. And they're the same group that like we rent houses together and we go skiing and all the kids. And like, I know, listen, like, don't expect, my husband does this so well. And he always reminds me, he's like, you're expecting more from that person than they want or willing to give or can give. Stop. Don't put the expectations on them.
Yeah.
Because it's so true. Because all you're going to do is you're going to end up feeling depleted. Your energy is going to get drained. Yeah. So, you know what I mean? Like really make sure. And if right now you're listening to this and you're like, I don't have that room or I don't have those people, go and seek them, go and find them. There's plenty of them out there, but it's your job to do that and not constantly be griping or being upset that your expectations don't feel they're being met by your old circle because you're a new person.
Yes. Yeah. And I like how your husband or you talked about the expectations. When you expect something from somebody else, but they're not willing or wanting to fulfill those expectations or even know you have those expectations, the only person you're going to disappoint is yourself. So you almost need to have high standards. I get it. But you can't have high expectations for every single person out there. You will absolutely that would be like me expecting my marketing director to be amazing at paperwork.
Right. Or finance.
Yeah. Or right? Finance.
Like,
yeah. Probably not. Yeah.
It's not fair to the person receiving that information. It's not fair to you. So just make sure you make that distinguish and know that you're going to feel that way at some point. Like it's okay to feel this person's not, that person's not showing up, but it's your responsibility to check yourself and say, okay, how do I go and find that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't play victim.
No. And that drives me crazy is when everybody, I would say 98% of this world has the victim mentality. Poor me. They did this to me. No, life happens for you, not to you. And until you can start realizing that everything that happens in your life is happening for you, you need that's when things will start to change. Stop looking at things as, oh, this happened to me. You've obviously been through a lot, but if you played that victim mentality, you would be in a completely different world than where you are at today. One thing that Rob Dial has always said is take your worst day and make it your best. Now, you had an obviously horrendous experience, but you took it and you made it your best. You are now a speaker because of it, or a big driving force because of it.
100%. And I always say, listen, we can decide to, again, be a victim. We can decide to be a survivor, or we can decide to be a thriver. And I'm not saying one is right or one is wrong. We all make different choices and we all have to do it at different times of our life. But what I made a very conscious choice to do is to say, listen, how can I thrive? Because it's only going to help I knew for me that was going to be part of my healing journey. So when I was brutally assaulted almost 2 years ago to the day, it was June 15th of 2022. And within 2 or 3 days of this happening, I was like, I have a choice. And I'm not saying this is my journey. It's not everyone else's. So maybe you had something that happened to you 5 years ago and you're still not there. It's okay. We all deal with tragic trauma, death, things very differently. And there's no right or wrong way to deal with it. But what I'm saying is one of the best things for me was to take this traumatic event where I was brutally assaulted and almost killed and say, how can I make this into good? How can I be the light for someone else? How can I selfishly help myself by talking about it and by encouraging other people and by feeling like I was making every speech that I give changes just one more person. It's done its job. right? To be able to go out there and be an advocate for resilience, to be an advocate, to be audacious and go out there and share it, because some people just don't want to because the fear. And I get it. I had that too. And it took time, and I'm still in therapy, like dealing with the aftermath of that event. And that will always be part of me. But you can allow your story to define you, or you let it refine you. And when you let the story refine you to make even a different person, I want to say better or worse, just different, it's remarkable the residual impact that can come out of that.
So are you willing to share your story? Would you mind kind of sharing details of what happened, what your life was like when and how it all happened? Or there's really not a why. You don't have a why, but you want to kind of give details about your experience. Is that something that you're okay with?
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with it. Listen, I have a TEDx on it. You can follow me. You can find out all the details about it. But basically, it was an unfortunate situation that happened in a day like no other. I drove to work the same way. It was a man who had been in prison for 12 years. He got out of prison. He assaulted 4 women the night before, raped a woman right before he came to get me. And again, it wasn't coming to find me. I happened to be in that circumstance. I was getting out of my car on a normal summer day in the middle of June. And as I was getting out, there he was. And I asked him if I could help him. And before the words even slid out of my mouth, he punched me in the face. He grabbed me by the hair. He threw me to the ground. He beat the living shit out of me. He strangled me. And fortunately, by an act so much higher than I can ever be thankful for, I was able to get to my feet and run for help, not knowing if he had a gun, if he would chase me, what was going to happen, what the aftermath was going to look like. To this day, I wonder if he could have started that car, would he have run me over? Did he have a weapon? Would he have tried to kill me? I don't know. And I could play the what if game so many times, but what I do know is, going back to your statement before, it really happened for me to be able to talk about things like this, that these type of things are going on when you least expect it. It was completely random, right? Like, I didn't know this person. This person wasn't out to necessarily say, I'm going to find Erika Rothenberger. It was just the right timing, the right place. And then he escaped by foot and started burying himself. And long story short, the drones came in. It's been under investigation. I still go to court about it. And so it's been an aftermath. But what I decided is I could let this weigh me down. I could let this define my life, or, like I said, really just refine me into this point. That's exactly what I speak upon about the audacity to be resilient, but not resilient when it has to be this massive, horrific, traumatic event. Just anything we do in life, whether it's in business, whether it's entrepreneurial, whether it's with our children, that we have the choice to use resiliency as our superpower. And I truly believe it became my superpower in some of the darkest, deepest, hardest times in my life. And if it weren't for that I was already building that thread within me, right? Like, I was already working on it without even thinking about it, I wouldn't be where I am today.
And how do you think that if you would have just taken on the victim mentality, where would your life be today after all of that? Because I would say a majority of people in this world, they get the crap beat out of them almost to your death, like almost to death, even though it was unprovoked. It wasn't anything you did, nothing you could have done differently that would have changed the circumstances. But if you would have played in that victim mentality, because it wasn't just that one instance, it wasn't just that one time that you've had to face this challenge. Like you said, it's been 2 years and you're still going through court. So that is something that gets brought up over and over and over again. You're
talking about that scab.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Like, you're speaking about it. So it's getting brought up over and over. It's not just it happened, you bury it and move on. No, right. You have faced it head on, like, not just faced it, like you've blown over it, but it's still not easy, I'm sure, especially when you really dig deep into it. You said you go to therapy, but if you would have taken on this victim mentality, this victim role, poor me, this happened to me, whatever it is, where do you think your life would be at? How different would it look?
Well, the way that I think about it is I think about how rampant mental illness is right now. And someone has something like this happen to them. And I'm sure there's people that are listening right now that have had traumatic events. And when I say that, it does not need to be being punched in the face. That could sound really like gory and traumatic and you had to go to trial. But there's been so many other things that have happened in my own life that aren't to this severity. Like my parents with their bitter divorce. 50% of us, like there's 50% of marriages are ending in divorce. We probably all either directly know someone or indirectly know someone that's been through that. That can be far more traumatic to someone in a different way, right? But it's how we deal with it, and it's how we decide to move on. Going back to the whole mental illness, that it can absorb you. And I could probably be in a really dark place, but I get one life to live. And God gave me another chance that day. And I'm here to be able to tell that story. And I have the choice of what to do with it. So yes, I could be in that space, but I'm like, do I want to stay stuck in that muck, right? Or in that bucket with those crabs pulling me down because, oh, it's so awful. And you must feel horrible about this. And I can't believe this happened to you, or do I want to crawl out and say, okay, listen, this is going to be probably 10 times harder at the beginning. But once I'm out of that bucket, look at all the glory that has come from it. Look at all the lives that have been impacted by it. Look at all the people that I've been able to create a ripple impact because I made that choice. And at the end of the day, it really comes down to you wanting to make that choice. So where I would be, I don't know exactly what it would look like, but I know it would look a hell of a lot darker than it looks right now.
Yeah, I agree. And what you focus on grows. So where you water grows. If you're focusing on the dark and the negative and the abuse and all of those things, you're going to get stuck there. You're going to get sucked into it. But if you focus on, okay, well, how can I turn this around? How can I help people? How can I make this push me to another level? And that's the direction that you've gone, which is why I see so many people, if their parents are abusive or alcoholics, they have two choices typically is what I see. They either follow in their parents' footsteps or they go complete opposite direction and they themselves. I heard a story one time where two identical twins, their dad was an alcoholic, and they asked the one twin, why are you an alcoholic? Well, because my dad is an alcoholic. They asked the other twin, why are you not an alcoholic? Well, because my dad was an alcoholic. Two totally grew up in the same life, same DNA, everything. One chose to go one path, one chose the other. So whatever because the one said that happened to me. The other one said that happened for me, and I'm not going to go down that road. So it's on it's not what happens to you, it's how you react.
And coming from spending many, many years in Al-Anon, because, my family had some issues with alcohol, I get that, right? And I've made a conscious choice to decide how I'm going to live my life that way, right? Like you said, everyone could find a reason to be a victim, right? Everyone. No one comes from, I want to say a perfect Brady Bunch, but let's face it, Brady Bunch wasn't even perfect, right? So they were actually probably more dysfunctional than most. And when we really unpack it, we have to say, okay, listen, I'm the only one driving, only the one holding the steering wheel every day. And I'm the person that I look into the mirror every morning is the only person that can ultimately make that difference.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. And I love everything that you have to say and everything that you've done so far.
Shay, the only one point I do want to add in, it's not easy, right? I would be lying to you. Some of you are listening right now, or perhaps watching this on YouTube being like, oh, well, it must be so easy. No, every day I have to make the conscious choice, but you have to decide on those behaviors of what you're going to do that are going to become your habits. That are going to become the way you have to reprogram your mind. And when my negativity comes out of my brain, and it does, and I feel it in my heart, and I feel like all I want to do is cry and lay on the bathroom floor and, let the mascara run down my face. I get those days. So what I want to remind all your listeners today is it's okay to feel sometimes that you're going to take 5 steps back, right? Or sometimes you're going to be in the victim mentality. Right? We are not robots and we are not made to be perfect. But the more I train myself, the more I'm able to say, hold on, time out. How am I going to move forward from this? Right? And I catch myself. And it's not meaning that I never go below the belt or I never get into that situation. So let's just all remind each other we are human and we are hot mess expresses, most of us, most days. And it's okay to feel that way. Yeah. This is not it's not a banana bread recipe, right? Where you know exactly how to bake it.
Yeah. No, that's a very good point. And I think, so I don't know if you have read the book yet by John Gordon that we got when we were at Amberly Lago's event, but I've been reading that one, The One Truth. And he talks about those negative thoughts. Everybody has those negative thoughts, but you also need to realize that those negative thoughts are not your thoughts. Those are coming from somewhere else because nobody would intentionally want to have these negative thoughts. But the more you listen to those thoughts and the more you believe those lies, the more you're going to believe them, and that's how you're going to act and react off of them. But if you can realize that those negative thoughts are not yours and they're coming in and you're like, nope, you know what? That's not what it is. Because if somebody said, hey, Erica, I absolutely hate your pink hair. Okay. I guess. All right. Well, good for you. I don't know. I don't have pink hair. Or absolutely, I don't like your hair. Okay, well, I'm not self-conscious about it. Like, I like my hair, but you have to like be able to move past that. Don't believe those lies. Because if somebody in your mind is telling you these things, you have to be able to realize that those are not your thoughts. Those are lies. Those are the negative things that come in, and you need to push them out and move past them.
Yes, 100%. 100. And push through them. Don't try to pass them. They're real. Like, they're there for a reason. And maybe it's to teach you something. Maybe it's for you to learn something. But go through them. Just be like, okay, listen, this may be like, we're not all going to be always operating on this high capacity path, right? And there's times for the power of the pause, and there's times to really go full force and run the sprint. Yeah. We're like, and you need to decide different times of your life, depending on circumstances, depending on family life, depending on where you're at, where you need to run that race.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you have all of these things obviously going on in your life. Oh, you had made the comment before that like what happened to you has gotten you to where you're at today. And it's beautiful. But I also want people to realize that success is not a destination. It is a journey. Like, yes, you're going to continue growing. You're going to continue to become, I guess, successful. And you're going to have those ups and downs. Some days you're going to feel like you're very successful. And then other days you're feeling like you're failing and you don't know which way's up. So going back, I'm assuming you said you got to a point where you're like, yeah, things are great. But you also just said you have those dark days too. You know what I mean?
Every day. And I think the biggest thing that takes me out of my game, and I think we're all guilty of doing it, even though I will preach not to do it, is we try to compare ourselves to other people, right? Speakers that are further ahead, people that have more defined abs than us, people that have whatever it is, like all of the things that come up every day. And it's hard, but I always say it's like a horse, right? Keeping your blinders on. What is your path and what are you trying to accomplish? And your race may look very different than someone else's. And I have to remind myself about that because, an overcoming perfectionist, firstborn, Aries, like all of this sort of stuff. And I put so much pressure on myself. And what does that do? At the end of the day, I talked about that leads you closer to mental health issues, that leads you to compromising your health, that leads you to feeling more anxiety prone. Like, do I really want all the output of that to say, oh, I accomplished these 3 more things? Or am I going to say, hey, listen, this is the track that I'm running on. This is my race. And what do I want it to look like? And whether I finish the marathon in 4 hours or 8 hours, guess what? I'm still going to finish the marathon. Mm-hmm. It may just look a little different than, you know what I mean? The person that was 4 hours in front of me.
Yeah.
I just did a post the other day and it talked about like when different presidents took offices and when different people succeeded their start and when different leaders started their businesses. And I think so much of us, like we try to put this age on it, right? We try to say, oh, she did this by the time she was 33. And guess what? I'm 10 years older and I haven't done this yet, right? Why has this not happened to me? And I think we have to stop doing that to each other and realize like, listen, what did you do before you got there? And I'm actually even trying to bring up that, the genesis of that post, because to me, it resonated with me so much that New York, it says is 3 hours ahead of California, but that doesn't make California slow, right? Like someone graduated from college at 22, but waited 5 years before securing a job. Some CEOs started at 25, but died at 50, when the other one started at 50 and died at 90, right? And so it just reminds you, like, people might seem like they're ahead of you, and that's fine, but some are behind you, and everyone is running their own race at different time zones. Don't envy or mock that. They are in their own time zone, and this is yours. Life is about waiting for the right moment to react. So relax. You're not late. You're not early. You're very much on your time. Mm-hmm. And I read that a lot because it resonates with me, and I repost it a lot because I'm like, listen, we need to stop. And I write it because it's because I'm in that state of mind that I feel behind to what?
Yeah. Yeah. And I like that you brought that up, because I think that sort of mentality is just like your fitness daily habits, because you're not just going to get fit and you're just going to stay like that the rest of your life if you don't ever work out again. You know what I mean? It's a daily commitment between your food, your nutrition, and then your obviously physical health. Your mental health is the exact same way. You don't just work on it for a little bit, or you listen to a few motivational podcasts and you're good to go. No, you have to actually take action on a daily, regular basis, especially on those days where you're feeling that you're going down that dark hole. When you have those negative thoughts, that's when you have to pull yourself out of it. And it is mentally tough. It happens on a very regular basis. And I'm like, nope, okay, let me go outside. I'm going to go out on a walk. It's nice out. I'm going to go on a walk, not bring my phone, and I'm going to force myself to talk to God, to talk to my grandpa, to talk to whoever, and thank them for the life that I've given, and start looking for those things to be grateful for when everything else around you feels like it's crumbling down. You absolutely have things to be grateful for. You just need to dig deep and find it.
Yeah. And I think going back to the point that I made before, having those habits, what are you doing every day to keep yourself in that mindset? Like, to me, it's my gratitude journal. To me, it's my abundance statements in the morning. It's reading, having my set time for reading. Like, when I started doing that, it made the world of difference. Not on day one, not on day two, but when I started really practicing it for 60 days, right? And now it feels weird when I don't do it. And when I don't do it, I feel incomplete. And that's what it should feel like. It almost should feel like those days, and let's face it, we've all had them, like you're traveling or something, you've only brushed your teeth like once a day, or like or whatever, and you can be like, all right, that doesn't feel so good. Mm-hmm. That's how I want it to feel for people, because you've created those habits, right? Like, the days that I don't go to the gym feel worse to me than when I go to the gym, right?
Yes.
So it's really focusing on that.
That's funny you brought it up, because my husband and I were just talking this morning about it, because we do the same thing. You get up and things do kind of get a little bit boring. Success is not sexy. It's not. It can be very repetitive and very boring. But he even said this morning, he's like, I feel like I'm just getting burnt out on working out. And he's like, I'm so tired of it, because it's just what we've done forever. Okay, no. But anyway, so it's what we've done forever. And I said, it's funny, because I said, you say that, but the days that you don't work out, it's harder for you when you go to work and things along those lines. So yep. Erica, tell me, what is one piece of advice, before we end all of this, what is one piece of advice that you would like to share with the audience that you would maybe either give to them if they're just starting out, or even to your younger self?
I probably could do, the 101 top things that I would say, but I'll go back to one of the things that I even do in my keynote. And I remind everyone to be that light, to be the light that how they want to leave the world, right? So the days when your light seems dimmed, the days your light goes off, like, how do you want to be showing up? And if right now you feel like, on a scale from 1 to 10 on that dimmer, you're at a 2, what can you do to get to a 3? And reminding yourself that you're not trying to get to a 10. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to, it's not these quantum leaps. Yes. And reminding ourselves it's the consistency and the things that we do each and every day that will bring us closer. I always say, listen, I remind my kids, reading 5 pages a book, right? Reading 5 pages like in a book a year can be equivalent, depending on how long it is, to like 6 or 8 books a year, right? Mm-hmm. If you decide to just spend 1 hour of your day, which is 4% of your day, working out, right? Like, what can you do to your health benefits over the next 60 or 90 days, right? It's the little bit, like, if you improve yourself by just 1% every day, it's a 37% growth in just 1 year. We always say, oh my goodness, that year went by so fast. But did you really give yourself that 1% every day?
Yeah.
If you give me just 5 minutes a day to focus on yourself, that's 20 hours of self-development over the next year.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So, but if I told you go find 20 hours to do self-development, people would be like, I don't have time. I don't have 2 days. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? To go do self-development 10 hours a day. But if I told you, hey, listen, could you find 5 minutes a day? Most people are like, yeah, I can find 5 minutes a day. Yeah. Right. But it's your choice. Yeah. So being the light for other people and continuing to be consistent with your growth to me, are just absolutely critical. And I wish, I'm not going to say that I didn't try to be that person, but I think I tried to act with this dim light for a long time and kind of do, not push the envelope. And it's no. I want to be that 10. Mm-hmm. So how am I going to get there?
Yeah. You were just getting by, basically. So incremental, not monumental. That's what my sponsor here, he always says. He says it's incremental, not monumental, those small daily steps that you do every single day to be 1% better. So no, Erica, and I know that I wanted to talk a little bit more about your book, but I know we're getting close on time, but anybody who wants to reach out, because I know you coach as well. You're wellness, you do it all. You're a woman who wears all sorts of hats, and I absolutely admire you for that. But
the hats I choose to. The hats
that's
I
right.
choose to.
Yeah, and baking is not one of them. It's not one of mine either. So
or cleaning.
I know that. Yeah, or cleaning, not a thing. But if somebody wants to get a hold of you, or if they want to coach from you, or if they want to buy your book, where can they find that information?
Best place to go is my website, www.ericarothenberger.com. Would love to connect with you. Would love to get to know you. I'm on many social media channels, everything. I love connecting with people on LinkedIn. I love connecting with people on Facebook or Instagram. Best place to really find me and connect with me. I'd love to get to know you. I'd love to share any more of my journey or my story and just help anyone in your community, because I know all of the fabulous things that you're doing, Shay, and I just love watching you rock and roll.
Well, thank you so much. And Erica is with a K. So if you're searching her and going to her website, it is Erika with a K Rothenberger. So Erica, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day and being here and sharing your knowledge and expertise. We'll stay in touch and we are going to stay connected. So thank you again for being here. And I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much.
And that wraps up another inspiring episode of the Real Moms Podcast. A huge thank you to our incredible guests for sharing their story and insights today. If you found value in today's conversation, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And hey, sharing is caring, right? Share this podcast with your fellow mompreneurs, friends, and anyone who you feel could use a dose of inspiration. Share it on your social media as well. But most importantly, if you found this episode helpful, please, please, please leave me a 5-star review. This helps get our information out to those who have never heard or seen us before. Are you feeling inspired and you're sure that you could add some value to the podcast? Shoot me a message and let's talk. We love hearing from you. So connect with us on social media. Tag me at Shay J Spitz. That's ShaeJSpitz. And share your thoughts and takeaways, or even suggest topics you'd like to have us explore more in the future episodes. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. Your resilience is your strength, and your pursuit of abundant living is truly remarkable. As always, keep thriving, keep growing, and keep embracing the beautiful chaos of being a mompreneur. Until next time, take care, stay real, and keep living abundantly.